name is Earl Gladding. I was born in 1974 and ultimately came to prison when I was 23. That was 25 years ago. My father raised me and my two brothers when my mother left us. She died when I was 15. But by then, my life was very different. My father, despite his best efforts to keep our family together, I was placed in foster care. And when that failed, I was moved to a private school. I had a learning disability, but I wasn't stupid. I am a great artist, and I can fix anything electronic or with an engine or a motor. I may have difficulties being educated in a classroom, but open up a radio and I can teach you how it works. When the school spit me out at 18, I started spending more time on the streets of Waterbury and met up with the wrong people who introduced me into drugs. Drugs changed me into a very different young man. It led to a loss of family, crime, homelessness, and eventually murder. This is my story. When I was young, my father did the best he could to raise me and my two brothers. I was the oldest, and DCF took us away from him because he was working 2 jobs and somebody had to be there to watch us. So he decided he wanted to have these women take care of us every day. And after a while, people started seeing these women come in and out of my father's house every day, different women every day. So that started raising questions with the neighbors. And the neighbors called DCF and the police and told them that my father was running a whorehouse. Then DCF intervened. They came and they took his kids away and they put us in foster care. And while I was in foster care, I was going through a lot. It took a lot out of me to be pulled away from my father and the way I was living to be put in a foster home and try to cope with a different type of environment. So I started rebelling. I started getting in trouble. I started not listening to the foster parent, just doing stuff that a teenager is really not supposed to do. She couldn't take me anymore, so she told DCF worker one of us had to go. So then I was placed in behavioral private school, is where I stayed until the age of 18. After that, they put me in a program to get used to the streets to be able to catch buses, because I've been away so long from the streets being in the school that they wanted to teach me how to use a bus. It was just like learning how to walk all over again. I had to teach how to get a bus, how to get a job. And I felt like at the time, when I was 18, that this school wasn't for me, so I left. So I lived with a friend of mine. And as I was living with him, he's had people over at the house. And then I got introduced to crack cocaine. And crack cocaine led from one thing to another. And I had a son that I couldn't raise because I was too young. My childhood was just a mess. I I didn't know which way I was going. Even though I was an adult, I felt like I was still a kid. And my father really, he was there for me, but he wasn't there to really teach me the father things. With him not being there, I just felt like a kid. It was just, I never grew up. I never, like, you know, got a chance to be like normal children. You know, go to school, play with your peers, have friends after school. I didn't get a chance to do any of that because of this foster home. And my other two siblings, it was kind of hard to compete with them in this foster home. I got kicked out of school. I got kicked out of middle school because I was just out of control. I was supposed to graduate to high school. The year I was supposed to graduate to high school, I got expelled. And I just had all kinds of stuff going on, and then I started skipping school, and it was a mess. And I thought hanging in the streets, running away, not being around my parents, that was the thing. But I wasn't doing that before when I was younger and I was with my father. Those things didn't even occur. But that takes effect on children when you pull them away from their families. I understand the circumstances and I understand why they did what they did, but that causes trauma, and it caused me trauma to get involved with the people I got involved with to get where I am right now, which is jail. But my father overall did try to give me everything that he could give me when I was a child. He tried his best. He even blames himself for the way I am or the way I ended up. But that path that I went down when I was a child was just, I thought that was the thing to go as a kid. I didn't have really no anybody to look up to because I was the oldest. I didn't have like an older friend or older brother that will show me the direction to go into. So it was really hard on me because I had to not only be the big brother, I had to show an example for my other two siblings, which I didn't. Because at the time they were young, they didn't understand what I was going through, and it affected me more than them. So I ended up ultimately being separated from them for that many years, and it just took effect on me to get me where I am today. Yes, I was older and I had a choice to make, and I made my own decisions. But I believe that really had a big part in my life. And now that I'm here in jail, I look back when I was younger and I ask myself, what can I change? What can I change? Is it my father's fault? Is it my mother's fault? But for the most part, growing up and not having any friends as a kid, I didn't have that. I didn't have any friends I could say I like or was around because I didn't get a chance to enjoy that. And when it was handed to me, I was more of a person that stays to himself. I didn't know how to talk. My parents, when I was younger, my parents used to get mad because I was the type of kid that just wouldn't talk at all. They thought I was mute. I didn't talk so much. But then as time went on, I started learning to open up as a kid. I had to grow up. I had to be an adult. when I was a kid, believe it or not. So just doing that was just like a balancing act. And I don't know how I didn't get killed out there. I don't know. I don't have the slightest idea why I ended up here and not dead in the street. But the foster care system and the lady that was taking care of me, she did what she could. She did everything she possibly could. But there was a lot of shady stuff when I was a kid going on. Like, me and my two siblings would get, like, hand-me-downs from her family. And we would have to, work that out to where that. And in the meantime, her kids will get brand new clothes. So I'm seeing all of this, and I can't explain it to my siblings because they don't understand. They were too young to understand what was really going on. So that kind of like pushed me into doing what I did. Not the crime, but to be rebellious and running away and all that stuff. I wanted to just be like the other kids, but unfortunately I couldn't. I wanted to have what they had. I wanted to be able to hang out and not have to come home when my mother said to come home. And it was just a bunch of stuff when I was younger that got me to where I was. It wasn't too much of rules and regulations. It was more of I didn't feel like that was my place or some other person to tell me what to do besides my parents. So they put me in like these group therapies. They tried everything, and none of that worked. And the only thing that would have worked is if I was back with my family. If I was with my family, I don't believe any of that childhood stuff would happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of the questions I was actually going to ask you. So you think like if none of that would have happened, you would have been like a whole different life?
Yeah, because I was on my way. I was going to go in the military. Yeah, I would have had a whole different life. But with all of that going on and all of that, there's a lot of confusion for a child to absorb and try to be an adult at that age.
Yeah, completely understandable.
So when that is beared on you, and you got to be the example for two younger siblings. There's a lot of
1 minute left.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I agree. Very agreeable. How much younger were they than you?
They were like one was 11 and one was 10, I believe.
Okay.
And there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that they didn't see and didn't understand that I couldn't explain to them. So that's what led me to what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, to go back, so how old were you? Said they were 10 or 11. How old were you at the time?
I had to be at least, I want to say, 16.
Okay, so with your dad, what was the women like? Were they just people he knew, or just like people he was dating?
Well, I remember that clearly. Those were women that he knew. Those were women that would help him out, in taking care of us. I knew them myself at that age. I knew who these women were, and I knew what they were about. But my siblings had no idea. They didn't know anything about that.
Okay, so like just with the neighbors, saying that, like they were just kind of being nosy, like putting their nose where it shouldn't have been, type thing.
Right.
Okay.
Right. They were just nosy neighbors watching these women come every day. It's a different one every day. There was some people that was in the neighborhood he had to work. He had to take care of us 3 kids, so he couldn't just leave us behind in the house.
Yeah,
Even
because
though I was the oldest, but we were too young to be left alone.
how old were you guys around this time? Was it when you were younger?
I'm gonna say I don't even remember the age, to be honest with you.
But just young enough till you weren't able to really watch yourself and your siblings.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy though. Like when you said that, I was like, "What?" Like the man's literally trying to, take care of his kids and work, and they're like, "Oh, he's got got running a whorehouse over there." But like you said, the women, they helped your dad out, and it's like it could have just been they all had schedules different, and that was just days they could help. You can't help that.
Right. The day, I watched my father. I watched him putting him in the squad car. They took us to the hospital to get checked. I mean, they brought us right to the hospital immediately. DCF. They took him to jail, all because of the neighbors. So our whole family got broken up because of some neighbors that really couldn't mind their business and didn't know what the heck was going on. All they had to do was ask.
Yeah, did they not really investigate when they done? Because usually I would have thought they would investigate, talk to the women, your dad, and be like, hey, what's going on? Which so the neighbors would have gave the same story.
No, back in those times, it wasn't no thing like they got now. Back then, they took anything that anybody said and they went and they just went and did what they had to do instead of asking questions and talking to the neighbors or. They didn't even have a sure thing of really what was going on. They just seen these women coming in and going out.
They probably kind of thought maybe, if he was running a whorehouse, maybe drugs or something involved. So they were just kind of throwing that up.
Into all of that. But I understand where they were coming from. They were trying to look out for the safety of us.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, when you're a kid, you don't see it that way.
Yeah, understandable. Yeah. I know when I spoke earlier, you said your mom had passed away when you were 15, right?
Yes, I was 15. I was in the boarding school at the time when she passed away.
I'm sorry. Continue.
No, you're good.
Like, is your dad still alive?
Yes. Matter of fact, I talked to him just the other day.
Okay. But yeah, go continue with your mom's situation.
My mom, she didn't want anything to do with us kids, period. That was the bottom line. And my father stepped up to the plate and took us, and he says, I'm not going to allow, them to just go anywhere, even though we ended up with DCF anyway. He took us in and provided us with everything that he could possibly give us. So I don't blame him for the way I am now, or how everything turned out, because he did his part, and it was only because he was trying to, take care of us.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I understand it.
Yeah, it's just kind of it's crazy how because my my brother and my sister-in-law, they were trying to adopt kids years ago. Like they had the kids forever, and they thought they were going to adopt them. Well, it turned out they're like, oh, you can't. Somebody messed up in the system, and like it's like they had them for 4 or 5 years. Like these kids were like 2, 3 years old. When they first got them, like their dad still had rights to them, even though he tried to kill their older brother. So he was in prison.
Wow.
The mom didn't want nothing to do with them. Like she was like I think on drugs, just in and out of their life. Well, she ended up getting them back. She ended up getting them back. So I just find like it's sad, with when kids go through the system and like you said, get moved around like that. And like with your situation where you were saying, the lady that took care of you, you guys are getting hand me downs while their kids are getting brand new stuff. Like that's I see where you're coming from because you can see as a kid you start noticing like sometimes like with step kids, stuff like that, or just any kids, if you're not the
Uh-huh.
biological parent of
Right.
them, they just treat them completely different. And then those kids, no
Different,
matter their
right.
age,
Yes.
they know
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. They're like, hey, why are they getting new stuff and we're not getting nothing? Like, and they treat you different, and it really affects them
Sure.
mentally.
Sure. But the foster parent also tried to get me to not like white people. Now, I had a neighbor that was white, and me and him were good friends,
Mm-hmm.
and she hated it because she's from the South,
Yeah.
and I wasn't raised that way. I was raised to get along with anybody that gets along with me.
Mm-hmm.
So she tried to convert me into the way she sees things, which I don't think, it was a good thing. Not for kids anyway. Listen, for example, I wore a Dukes of Hazzard shirt, not knowing what the flag meant.
Mm-hmm.
In her eyes, I wore it because I like the show and I like the car. As a kid, she cussed me out because I'm wearing a shirt that I didn't know anything about. I didn't know anything about no racist flags or anything like that. And that's what I mean about being an adult. Like, I'm supposed to know this. I didn't know anything about that.
Oh yeah, like kids are always, it's kids are more open minded to things, and then the parents kind of put their thoughts and everything into the kids to make, because like kids don't see race until the parent puts it there, or anything really. Honestly, like
Right.
they're open minded until the parent tells them otherwise.
Absolutely. Um, and going to school, you should have seen me going to school when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I used to take my clothes, right, that she used to give me to wear to school. I used to get a friend of mine that lived up the street. I used to get clothes from him, change the clothes, put them in a plastic bag, leave them in the woods, and go to school with the clothes that my friend gave me and the clothes my mother gave me, which I would never wear. I would never hurt the end of it. So before I came home, I used to put on those clothes and come home. That was a shame, but that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do stuff like that.
So basically, when you left, you became homeless after that, correct? Like when you
Yes,
got of age.
I was homeless. Nobody really knew that I was homeless in my family. I was too ashamed to share that information. I felt like that was something I have to deal with. And being homeless, there's a different degree of homeless. And mine was more of, I was living in the street, and I started doing drugs and all this other stuff. And one thing led to another. That's what happens, when you're homeless. You just gravitate to anything that's going on out there.
Yeah, basically survival. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's gonna bring you into uh, the other thing I want to talk about later. But it was crazy. I mean, I've had to.
What is
Okay.
it? I'm just.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, where you mentioned that you were surprised you didn't die on the street. Were there like any times where it was like close? Like, were you like, I'm surprised I survived like this situation?
Yeah. Listen, there was two guys that were looking for me because I owed them drug money, and they were in the building looking for me. Now, the only place I can hide was on the roof. So imagine them catching me up on the roof. What was gonna happen?
Yeah,
So I'm looking down, and I see the guys on the sidewalk walking around looking for me, going in and out of the apartment. And I'm lucky that they didn't decide to go to the roof, because they went everywhere I could possibly go, and they couldn't find me. So yeah, I've been in some crazy situations. Yeah, I came close to dying quite a few times. I've been in a situation, and I'm surprised I made it. I mean, if it wasn't for jail, I probably would have been dead. There's no lie. There's no doubt about that.
And this would have been between the ages of like 18 to what, 22, 23?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Pretty
Exactly.
much still a child, young adult.
You're right. But when you have no direction, you might as well just say you're a child.
Yeah, yeah, I do.
You don't really know how to be a man. You're a man, but you really don't have that direction
Hmm.
on how to be a man and how to deal with certain situations.
Hmm.
Uh, I never got taught, how to use a checkbook, how to balance a bank account, get my driver's license. I never had a driver's license. I never had a driver's license ever. I've driven cars, but I've never had no. I haven't had that. That's what I was talking about. That thing where your father's supposed to show you all of that.
Hmm.
It's not his fault, but it's just those are the type of things that should have been going on in my life that didn't happen.
Hmm.
I got to share this information with these people. I want people to know out there if anyone would like to get in touch with me, they can find me on Facebook. But if you want to contact me directly in the prison, go to securistech.net and sign up for messaging, which is like email. I have a tablet in my cell, and I can respond every day. My name is Earl Gladding, and my inmate number is 234652. And you can also write me a letter at McDougal CI, 1153 East Street South, Southfield, Connecticut, 06080. If you want, I can even call you. Thank you.
One thing I want to ask though, with your address, do you write overseas or are willing
Yes,
to? Okay.
yes, I get international envelopes or whatever it takes for me to write. I can do that.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure because I know we have like listeners and stuff overseas, so if any of them want to
Okay.
reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what the
No
price
problem.
range is on that compared, so that's why I always ask to make sure.
Mm-hmm. Just let me know, like you said, when this is, gonna go out there so I can tell my family this.
Okay, that was our interview with convicted murderer Earl Gladdings. Like I said, if you would like to reach out to him, do so. And like that's why I figured I'd ask him overseas since we have overseas listeners. Um, Trying to think. Next week we will be covering. We're going to do this like the with Joseph Rizzo. Joseph is actually his cellmate. That's how he had talked to Earl about doing the interview with us. So we've been in the works with this. But if you would like to, like I said, reach out to Earl, do so. If you need his address, like if you didn't get it all written down, just let us know and we can help you out on that. Um, but next week, like I said, we're going to do like what we did with Joseph. This was like his childhood leading up. So the next episode will be about his crime, and we'll dive a little bit into that. And then the next part, which will be the third parter, will be trial. Well, not the trial, but second will be the trial and like all that, like the crime trial, going to prison, and then the third part will be prison life because he had been, like he said in the beginning, he's been in prison for 25 years, so he has a lot of stories. So you'll be hearing about that. So be very interesting to hear, what he has to say because there's not a lot of stuff you'll find on him if you look him up. So I'm glad to hear a story. It's really sad, to see, what all happened. And like me and him talking earlier, like I just found it crazy, his dad's literally doing all he can and, people's helping him, which, like he said, the neighbors were looking out for the kids, but they should have asked or, it's crazy that they didn't investigate. I found that crazy. But I thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.